Oh shit. Hello? Sorry about that. This is Werewolf the podcast, and I am your werewolf, and we're carrying on with some stories from my past. If you'd like to join the Facebook group, it's getting quite busy now, thanks to all those that have joined, then you can find the link down in the description below, and there's other links to other things. Big thanks to all those that sent me what they thought of my last story. It was a bit brutal, but it was fun. Let's carry on. This is called The New Moon Rises. The new moon rises in the distance. She's a little hesitant behind the bands of cloud that cover her. Tonight is one of those nights. I don't have a choice. Well, that is according to all that werewolf lore that has been made up about us in the past. What a pile of steamy bollocks. Ew. Fen and I have to do our thing and wolf out in the wild somewhere, apparently. It's not the truth, really. I don't really need to change, but do you know what? You've given me a fucking excuse. So fuck it, let's go and do what me and Fen are built for. Killing and shit. At this point, I usually have to quickly gloss over who Fen is. So here goes. He's a wolf soul, invisible to all but me. We talk telepathically. He is my best friend. He looks like a wolf, over 1,000 years old. I can use his senses when away from me and vice versa. When we want to be the wolf or the wolfman thing, we can combine and become one beastie. If you want to know more about Fen, please refer to other available episodes and shit on this podcast. I am sometimes a careful, chaotic creature when I need to choose caution. I have to ensure that I'm not really in an area that can get me in trouble. What do I mean by getting myself in trouble, you might ask? Well, you are a super confident werewolf creature. Why would you feel that you can get yourself in any kind of trouble? I can hear you ask it. This is true, but sometimes you want fun without much of the hassle brought into it when people get involved in numbers. I have often had issues in the past by causing too much damage or upset somewhere and then getting busted. Some of my favourite stories, I know, but, you know, not many of you, apart from my wonderful listeners, that is, I'm kind of talking about people in general, appreciate me being all murdery and shit, which I have to say is a shame. I'm really good at it. I've learned over the years not to drop myself into deep shit if I can help it. Shallowish shit is okay for me. Deep shit, not really my forte. Well, it is sometimes. But do you know what? Me and Fen have to be in the mood. I run in my wolf form through the woods and farmland. The breeze brings the pervasive smells of all those that surround me. I can smell the lives and the deaths in this space and beyond. Nature is all around me, and she is giving and taking from them all around us. This is real. This is so real. Humanity has lost this beautiful link to those that we share the world with. Humans have decided that they run the world. Not so, I'm afraid. You will be only one footnote in her history. You will always lose to motherfucking nature. I notice a life before me. It hunkers down in the bushes, hoping not to be seen. That I will simply pass it by as it is still and silent. If it was conscious, it might have the hope that nature would not be a bitch for her this night. Wrong-o. I nonchalantly wander by it. If a wolf could do that nonchalant whistling thing, I would be doing that right now. Sadly, I can't. At the last second, as I feel the mammal relax, I change direction to run into and spoil its day. It is time to test its will to live compared to my will to kill. As I crash into the vegetation, the hare springs away, white tail flashing as she shows fit and ready to run to save herself. She will need to fucking run like never before. She has me playing the game of death with her, and we're off. We charge into the open, fresh-cut field. She kicks and jinks as I snap at her heels. She's quick and able to change direction in a moment, but she does not match my gait and pace. So starts the race, and the thrill takes my entire focus. I run after the big-eared bouncing bunny bitch. With each of her turns, I snap at hind legs that are just a little beyond my grasp. She is such a challenge to catch. Her body is evolved for this, for the chase and for the escape. My only saving grace is that the longer the pursuit, the more chance I have to run her down. I have to keep close and keep her running. She is tiring and looking for the cover of long grass where she may lose me. I have to work hard to keep her from the place of safety. I need to keep her running, keep her constantly on the move, or she may just disappear. I chase, she turns, I chase and she whips to the left. I snap, she jumps away from my bite. A change of tactics is required. This time as she changes direction last minute, I do not snap my jaws but whip my nose onto her hip. She stumbles. Now my time to react as she rolls in the dirt. Clouds of the day's sun-dried dust are lifted into the sky. This bunny is fighting hard for her life, and I am fighting hard for her death. Time gets all relative and slow. I see her lithe and limber, turn and twist as she scrambles to her feet and almost makes it, but I knock her with my nose and she falls again. She is a little slower to rise and fly away this time, but she gains her feet and again is running. Nature is a bloodthirsty whore, and she is sitting and watching this as our excited audience, as wrapped in the action as us. She raises a glass and gives the competitors a salute, much like Caesar at the Colosseum. Her other hand contains a wooden box which she shakes, rattling the bones within before rolling the dice on the dirty ground. This is so exhilarating. I want it to end, but I don't want it to end. I feel so alive in these moments. This is so much living. The hare accelerates and sprints down a nice, even, straight path. Perfect. She is mine. Nature's roll this time was low, and I will soon run her down. I am catching her. I'm catching her. Almost there. Almost. I snatch at the little white tail as she stops dead. I get a mouthful of fucking fluff and run over the still creature as she shrinks to the ground, her legs and body being rattled by my own. I try to stop quick, but my size means momentum and she's up and running in the opposite direction even before I can come to a halt. Ah, for fuck's sake, runs through my mind. She is a worthy opponent. Now the fluffy-ass little bitch has outwitted me and stands at some distance, staring at me in the dark. My mouth is full of white fluff from her ass, but no fucking bunny. She is by the long grass and her escape. I have no chance, and she senses it too. She's beaten me. The little fucker had won. Mother Nature stands to clap and we hear the tumultuous applause as if we're standing before a vast crowd. I bow my head to the winner. She paws the ground with her front foot, twitches her ears, and then turns and disappears into the dark grass, tail flashing. She deserved her escape. I don't actually feel that bad. She won fair and square. I would rather have a contest than a slaughter. Inside my head, both Fen and I laugh. It was not about the winning for me. It was about the chase. And to be honest, it was a good chase. After a few moments of contemplation, I lift my head to sample the late evening air. A new smell. Man smell. It is a much bigger prey, but to be honest, not necessarily a better sport. The hare is now forgotten as my focus shifts to two caravans at the side of a lane just a few hundred yards away. Now here was some unexpected joy. I pad off into the night. Mother Nature refills a glass and reaches for the dice as her audience of spirits goes quiet. They're all preparing for the next act. He was a big man, whistling with his back to me. He had a string vest on and a pair of Y-fronts. He was busy emptying his bladder into the dark of the night in a dreamy and slightly steamy moment of release. Well, just because of the chill. He was enjoying a good wee. Everyone enjoys a good wee. I could smell the alcohol that laced his breath, and he was in his own little world as I strolled up behind him. Can a wolf stroll? I like to think we can. This urination had been a long one. He started to slow his stream as spurts were grunted out, and finally he finished and giggled a little as he shook the tool in his hand to rid it of the last few drops. The moon made the evening almost bright as the day now as she showed her beauty naked and unabashed, no clouds to hide her shine. I transformed in utter beautiful silence into my wereform and stood 5 feet behind the man. An 8-foot tall werewolf is now in the darkness, a black shadow myself, my pelt absorbing the light and creating true blackness in outline. Only my eyes lit the night, amber and fiery and focused on him. He must have felt an itching in his hindbrain, a call back in the DNA to a time when he would have had to be careful and considerate that there were teeth in the night. His relaxed stance has gone. The hairs rise on his neck. He is suddenly, let's say, ill at ease. He turns and for a moment just freezes as he looks at me. Disbelief was self-evident as his face caught up with his body's adrenaline dump, and he screamed, bringing his hands to his mouth and quashing the yell, smothering it. I just stood. I wanted to see how long this emotive moment could last before he was exhausted. Not long, it seemed. He turned to run, and unlike the hare, he was not fleet of foot. He slipped, landing on his face with a sickening crunch in his own puddle. Ew. Not the coolest of escape stories. Pitiful, to be honest. He was fat and out of shape, and obviously desperately trying to outrun heart disease and obesity. And he was losing. Piss poor sport. He had something that I liked though, a consciousness to play with. He had the imagination to make this horrific for himself. He lay shivering on the floor, mumbling nonsense to a god about being saved and shit. Well, that wasn't going to happen. God would meet him soon enough if that were what he hoped for. Oh, if only he had half the heart of the hare, this would be much more enjoyable. On her throne, I could see the queen of nature was questioning the changing sport. She was already lifting her hand to signal me to end the show with a thumb up or thumb down. Distraction. A movement in one caravan as someone came to a condensated window to see if there was a problem. They must have wondered why the man had taken so much time, or maybe gone quiet. The face at the window was trying to carefully gauge if they should come out of the caravan. It quickly moved behind what I took as a fetid pair of curtains as it noticed the downed man and the shadow over the downed man. I now knew I had a larger human audience, so it was time to do ruthless and unnecessarily violent damage to the man to inspire the worthy fear that this would induce in the creature in the caravan. I would kill this one quickly, let's face it, he sucked as a plaything. I mean, he was just lying there and crying, pathetic and pointless. Nature really didn't have to roll for this one. I would use him to play with my new praise emotions in the little metal box. I reached for the shivering coward's neck and grabbed it with a clawed paw, crushing it with a closing grasp, pulping the flesh. The death was quick and quiet. I listened for a response in that tin box. There was nothing yet, but it was time to move on to unlucky number 3 for this night. I shook the down man's head loose, held it in a paw, and thought about my next move. What was it going to be? Was it going to be full-on annihilation? Or slow torture? Would I play with my watcher's emotions and try and bring them to the edge of being able to cope? Would I break them mentally? Would I let them think they'd escaped only to take them when I wished? What would be the best thing to do? See, you think being a psychopathic werewolf is easy, don't you? So many fucking decisions to make, though. Fuck my life. The face at the window spotted the fact that I had spotted the face at the window. The curtains twitched, so I decided to have a little play with the person inside. She smelt young, in her early 20s, and very scared. I loved that smell. Female and frightened. I'm not being sexist or genderist or ist of any kind here. There's just something so nice to the flavour of a frightened female. It's incredible on the palate. The head flinched down and out of sight, allowing me to disappear from the world as well. Now it was even more frightening for her, as I was down below the window and out of her eye. There are not many things more terrifying than knowing that there is a werewolf out there. Something slightly more frightening is knowing there is a werewolf out there that knows that you are there. Even more frightening than that is when that werewolf you know is out there, that you know has seen you, and then it suddenly disappears. It's out there, but you have no idea where it is. I remembered I had the dead man's head in my hand, so I put it up to look in the window, just like a shit puppet, bashing its forehead on the glass and smearing blood across its surface. This got an intake of breath, a scream, and a crash as she fell to the floor. The gasp alone was slightly orgasmic, I have to admit. I did let go of a little giggle. Not a very big, tough, werewolfy thing to do, I admit, but I know I can share these things with you guys and not be judged too harshly. Fuck, I enjoy this shit. I do enjoy playing with my food. I know it's bad form, but come on. It is a real laugh to frighten the fuck out of some poor git or girl. I changed back to my human form. I wanted to play a little longer and sent Fen around to the other side of the caravan so that he could give me feedback on what was happening inside the space through a window. The images he sent me to my mind were beautiful. The girl had squeezed herself into the tiny corner of the tin box and stared at the head as I bobbed it up and down before her. I started making what I thought was spooky noises, but went quiet when Fen told me I sounded like an idiot. I must try harder. Aha! I screamed into the night, throwing the head as hard as I possibly could at the window, which shattered, sending broken glass scything into the room beyond. The girl was now in apoplexy, yelling and screaming and begging for help. It took at least 5 minutes before she just went still and lay mewling, the duvet in her hand covering her mouth. I knew she wouldn't move for a while, which gave me time to think. What to do? Yeah, I now had a funner plan. I walked over to the dead man's body and tore open his abdomen while the posit kept an eye on the girl. I grabbed a handful of guts, pulled them free and took them back to my victim. I took up a position outside the caravan window, smearing my naked body in the blood and lying on my front with the pile of guts below me, hoping that I would look like just another victim. Help me, I said, lying on the ground. Help me, please, I repeated. I saw the woman stop her incessant snivelling through the posit's eyes, and she tried to listen harder. Help me, please. Anyone, for the love of God, help me. She was now again quiet and paying attention. She slowly made her way from the bed. She thought she was being as quiet as a church mouse. To me, she sounded like a fuck-off clumpy elephant. Her eyes eventually came to the window and she surveyed the scene outside until she spotted the bloody naked man on the ground. Had the werewolf gone? Help, I again called, then feigned passing out. It took another 20 minutes, but I knew she would eventually come outside to see if she could help the dying human lying there. My God, she was a decent human being, so brave and strong. Is that an oxymoron there? Decent human being. She slowly opened the door and stood in silhouette. She was full of fear, but what a lovely person. She was willing to risk her life to help this poor, unfortunate man lying injured on the floor in front of her. What a woman! So brave! What a fucking idiot! I reached out a shaking hand towards her and whispered now for her help. Please. Please help me. He got me. He's gone, but he got me. She had no shoes on. She was only in her night attire. Her hair was dark and loose. Her face was contorted in fear, yet she still came forward to help the injured man. She knew there was death. She'd seen it do it. She had seen it kill. Yet she still came to help. When is bravery fucking stupidity? Have people no thought for their own lives? As she slowly got to me, she started to try and speak to me in a loud whisper. She was afraid that the thing she saw was still in the vicinity. So she should be, because it was here and it was waiting for her. "Are you okay?" she asked me. "Are you okay?" the posit sent to my head. Is she asking that as you lie there in your own blood and guts, is she really that much of a fucking idiot? "No," I said out loud in answer to her and his question at one and the same time. She slowly made her way to me, just lying there, and I could sense the fear and the dread she took every step. It was a heady cocktail, and it would be drunk and enjoyed when she got close enough for me to transform. With each step, I got more excited. It was like the children's game. What time is it, Mr. Wolf? I think that's what it's called. It's where the kids sneak up behind the player being the wolf and have to freeze when the wolf turns round, not to be caught. If you move, the wolf gets you. It now was time, Mr. Wolf. I reached for her and grabbed her wrist. "Help me. It's fucking killed me," I burbled. "What is it?" she asked. Can I help? Oh God, I've no idea what I mean. What can I do?" She burst into clouded, tear-filled failure. "Phone for help. Please phone for help," I asked her. "I need an ambulance. My guts are on the fucking floor. I can't hold them in anymore. Please help me," she cried out. She let her fear and sadness spill out like I had pretended my guts had. She let herself go. I knew she had to release it for a little while before she would be in any state for me to add any more distress. She'd actually done very well to cope as well as she had done so far. It was a little miracle that she'd not completely broken. I was slightly impressed and happy that it would be not over that quickly. "Have you got a phone? Please. I need help, please." I have to say, my acting was on absolute point. "I've got one in the caravan. I'll go get it," she said. She was now ready to help. She went into dealing with an emergency mode as I grasped her wrist and held it very firmly. "You see then, you're fucked," I told her as I looked into her eyes. Her face fell into confusion. She looked at my grip on her wrist and questions shot into her eyes, but it was too late. I had her, and she was now mine. She fought to get away, but I held her hand, mine turning from a soft and warm human hand to a hard and strong werewolf's claw. I looked her in the eyes as I changed so that she saw all the change that was going on. What would she do? How would she cope? Would she cope? I hope so, as this was just the beginning of the night for her, and I didn't want to break her too quickly. That would be no fun. The man had been, pathetic. I hoped that the woman would not be, that she would be strong and positive and take some breaking. Let us see where the night leads us. I smiled at her as I released her arm. Big, teethy tooths on show. She looked down at her now free wrist and then back at me. She was confused. In my mind, I said, "Run, little hare. Run." Thanks for listening. There are loads of things down in the description for the podcast. There's Twitter, Instagram, there's a book, there is Facebook groups, there is a link to support the show where you can buy me a flat white by following the support the show link. That would be wonderful. Thanks to listening. Thanks for listening, everybody. You're all wonderful people, and I hope you have nightmare. I hope you don't have. I hope you. Never mind. Bye.